I've killed 37 vampires in my career, 37 confirmed kills across 4 decades with the Morrison Syndicate. The commendations gather dust in a box somewhere. The scars tell better stories than any medal ever could. The night terrors, those I keep. But the 38th kill wasn't a vampire at all. The Seattle National Cemetery smelled like wet earth and regret that November morning. 6 months since Grace's funeral, and my boots still found the same path through the rows of white markers. Dawn hadn't broken yet. The good citizens of Seattle were still asleep, unaware that things with teeth walked among them. Unaware that men like me had spent lifetimes keeping them safe. Or so I told myself. The Purple Heart from Vietnam pinned to my jacket felt heavier these days. 62 years old, and I was finally learning the difference between duty and delusion. My hands trembled as I knelt at Grace's headstone, not from fear, but from the thing eating my lungs. Stage 4. Agent Orange, they said. A gift from Uncle Sam that keeps on giving. 3 months left, maybe 6 if I was lucky. Lucky. Christ. Grace Morrison. Beloved wife, guardian of light. That last part had confused me at the funeral. Guardian of what? I'd scratched it off with my knife that first week, raw with grief and rage. But it grew back, carved itself deeper into the marble overnight like the stone itself was arguing with me. I pressed my palm against the cold granite. The words I'd come to say stuck in my throat the way they always did. Sorry didn't cover killing your wife, even if you thought you were saving her. Even if you drove that wooden stake through her heart while she whispered your name, begging you to listen. Especially then, the warehouse, 6 months ago. Grace on her knees, that creature Nathaniel Blackwood, the vampire king himself, standing over her. Blood on his lips, her blood. I'd been tracking them for weeks, sick with the certainty that my wife had been enthralled, turned into cattle for some immortal monster's appetite. I'd burst through those doors with Marcus Chen and 12 other hunters, blessed silver rounds, loaded UV grenades ready. Grace had turned toward me, not relief on her face, terror. David, please listen. I hadn't listened. The stake had been in my hand before conscious thought. 40 years of training muscle memory, the same thrust that had ended 37 undead hearts. Except Grace wasn't undead, she was just dead. Now, because of me. My phone shattered the cemetery silence, and I nearly put my fist through the headstone. Rebecca Hayes. Rebecca Hayes, now the syndicate, had promoted her to my second in command after Grace died, after it had spent 3 months drunk and useless after the cancer diagnosis made it clear I wouldn't be leading much longer. Her voice came through, tight and professional. David, we have a situation. Your daughter is missing. The world tilted. Missing what? She ran away from my house last night. David, she took Grace's journals. The ones we confiscated from your study. Those journals were classified as syndicate property. Evidence. Grace had been documenting something before she died. Meetings with vampires' locations, some kind of research project we hadn't fully decoded. Hayes had locked them away pending full analysis. Where would she go? Silence on the other end. Then David, we tracked her phone. She's at the Blackwood mansion. Every muscle in my body locked. My 5-year-old daughter, in the lair of the thing that had corrupted her mother. The thing I'd failed to kill that night in the warehouse. I'm going to get her. Hayes' voice sharpened. Negative, this is a tactical situation now. We're initiating Operation Nightfall, full assault on the mansion 0400 hours. You're ordered to stand down, like hell I am. David, you're emotionally compromised. And you're dying. Don't make me relieve you of command. I stood bones protesting, lungs burning. My hand found the headstone one last time. Then try it. I killed the call, started walking toward my truck, then stopped. Something was wrong with Grace's grave. The stone next to hers, just a marker for the plot empty, where I'd be buried in a few months, had shifted. Moved maybe 3 inches to the left. Grass beneath it disturbed fresh, like someone had lifted it recently. I knelt again, ignoring my knees' complaints. Pushed the marker further aside. A small wooden box lay in the shallow depression, sealed with wax, old-fashioned, the kind of thing you'd see in a period drama. My name carved into the lid. David. Grace's handwriting. My hand shook worse as I broke the seal. Inside, a single piece of paper folded once. The handwriting was definitely hers. I'd know that elegant script anywhere. had watched her write grocery lists and love letters for 20 years. David, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Lily knows the truth now. She has my journals. The real ones, not the sanitized versions the syndicate will find. Trust Nathaniel. He was always my friend, never my master. The donations were willing, necessary. The real enemy is beneath Seattle, beneath everything. And you've been fighting the wrong war for 40 years. The gateway is failing. Without a covenant keeper, it collapses. When it collapses, what comes through will make vampires look like saints. I love you. I forgive you. Now forgive yourself and save our daughter. Gee, the paper trembled in my grip. Donations, willing, wrong war. I'd spent 6 months drowning in bourbon and hate certain I'd avenged Grace by trying to wipe out every vampire in the Pacific Northwest. Certain her death meant something because she'd been a victim, enslaved, used. What if she'd been a volunteer? What if I'd murdered my wife for being a hero? I was too blind to recognize. The sun broke over the eastern hills, spilling gold across rows of white stone. I folded the letter carefully, tucked it into my jacket. Got to my feet. The cancer sent a fresh spike of pain through my chest, getting worse daily now, and the morphine barely touched it anymore. 3 months, maybe less. Enough time to get one thing right before the darkness took me. The syndicate headquarters squatted in an industrial district south of downtown Seattle, a converted warehouse that had processed fish in the 50s and now processed information about things that shouldn't exist. The smell of old blood and gun oil never quite left despite Hayes' attempts to modernize the place. She'd hung motivational posters, upgraded the computers, brought in a coffee machine that cost more than my first car. But you couldn't wash 40 years of war out of concrete walls. 20 hunters filled the briefing room when I arrived, most of them young enough to be my grandchildren. The new generation. Faster, sharper, raised on protein shakes and tactical training instead of cigarettes and jungle rot. They wore body armor like it was business casual. They'd never had to fight with nothing but a knife and bad intelligence. They'd also never questioned whether the monsters they killed deserved killing. Hayes stood at the front near a projection screen, her auburn hair pulled back in a tight bun that made her look more like a school principal than a vampire hunter. She saw me enter and something flickered across her face. Disappointment, maybe, or pity. Gentlemen. Hayes hit a button and the screen lit up with an aerial view of the Blackwood mansion. Intelligence confirms the Morrison girl arrived at the enemy position at 23:47 hours. She's carrying classified syndicate artifacts, specifically the Covenant journals. A young hunter near the back raised his hand. What's the extraction protocol? Primary objective, secure the girl. Secondary, acquire the journals. Tertiary, eliminate Blackwood and his guard. I'd been standing in the doorway. Now I moved forward, and the room parted like I was radioactive. Maybe I was. Dying men made people nervous. My voice came out rougher than I'd intended. Belay that order. Hayes didn't even look at me. Commander Morrison is observing today. I have tactical command. The hell you do. I founded this unit in 1975. Nobody removes me from command but me. She turned then and I saw the calculation in her eyes. Saw her weighing options, political consequences, whether I'd actually fight her in front of the troops. David, with respect, you're dying. You're emotionally compromised because it's your daughter, and you've been drinking. I hadn't touched alcohol in 3 days, but my hands still shook. Close enough, I won't risk Lily's life for a tactical operation. Then you're relieved. Hayes gestured to 2 of the younger hunters. Escort Commander Morrison to the had my sidearm out before she finished the sentence. Not pointed at anyone, just out. Held low finger off the trigger, the universal signal for I will escalate if you push me. The room froze. Hayes stared at me. David, don't do this. I'm going to that mansion. I'm getting my daughter. You can help me or you can shoot me. But you're not storming that place with 50 men and UV grenades while Lily's inside. A voice from my left. Marcus Chen, 65 years old if he was a day, my spotter in Vietnam and my second in command until cancer made succession necessary. He stepped forward, slowly, hands visible. Dave, brother, put the gun away. I kept it low, not pointing, just precision. Mike Hayes is going to get my daughter killed. Hayes wants to end the vampire threat. Mike's voice stayed calm, that same tone he'd used to talk me through firefights in Kuchai. You think that's wrong? I think I killed my wife for nothing. The room went silent. Even Hayes seemed thrown. I holstered the weapon. Grace left me a letter. Said the vampires aren't the enemy. Said there's something worse. Something under Seattle that they've been protecting us from. Hayes recovered quickly. She always did. David, you're grief-stricken and dying. The vampires have manipulated. I didn't let her finish. I'm taking a Jeep. I'm taking my gear. I'm going to that mansion alone, and I'm going to talk to Nathaniel Blackwood. That's treason. Then court-martial me. I'll be dead in 3 months anyway. I turned toward the equipment room. Mike followed. So did 3 others, older hunters, men who had served with me before most of these kids were born. Men who understood that sometimes orders were wrong and good soldiers died following them anyway. Hayes called after me. David, if you go to them, you're dead to this organization. I paused at the doorway. If I don't go, I'm dead to myself. The equipment room smelled like cosmoline and old canvas. I gathered what I needed: sidearm blessed silver rounds, UV flashlight, first aid kit, Grace's journals that Hayes had stupidly left in the evidence locker. Mike helped me load the pack, his weathered hands quick and efficient despite the arthritis. He didn't speak until we were alone. You really think Grace was a volunteer? I showed him the letter. He read it twice, lips moving slightly, the way he always did when processing heavy intel. Finally looked up. If this is real, it's her handwriting, her style. Nobody could fake that. If it's real, Mike said carefully, then we've been murdering innocent people for 4 decades. The weight of that sat between us like a third person. 37 kills. How many had been justified? How many had been feeding on willing donors following some ancient code we'd never bothered to learn? Because it was easier to see monsters than men. Mike folded the letter, handed it back. What do you need time? Just buy me time to get Lily and figure out the truth. You know Hayes will follow you. She's ambitious. Killing Blackwood would make her career. Then she'll have to go through me first. Mike studied my face. Found whatever he was looking for. Okay, I'll delay her. 2 hours, maybe 3. After that, she'll override me. Thank you, brother. He gripped my shoulder. Dave, if you're wrong about this, if Blackwood really did kill Grace, don't hesitate. Just because you're dying doesn't mean you get to be stupid. If I'm wrong, then at least I die knowing I tried to understand instead of just react. That's growth, I guess. Mike's smile was sad. Never thought I'd see the day David Morrison questioned a kill order. Vietnam did that to me. Took 20 years to realize it. I grabbed the Jeep keys from the wall rack, loaded my gear. The morphine was wearing off, and the cancer was starting to assert itself. A deep, grinding ache that radiated from my chest like someone had replaced my lungs with broken glass. I dry swallowed 2 pills, knowing they wouldn't help much, knowing I'd need to stay sharp anyway. 3 months, maybe less. Better make them count. The drive north toward the Blackwood estate took 40 minutes through pre-dawn Seattle traffic. I spent the time reading Grace's journals, the real ones, not the sanitized versions Hayes had shown the syndicate. They were revelation and condemnation in equal measure. Grace had discovered the truth 3 years ago. Found her great-grandmother's diaries in an estate sale, journals that dated back to 1847. The Morrison family hadn't always been hunters. They'd been covenant keepers, humans who willingly donated small amounts of life force to vampire guardians in exchange for protection from something worse. Something that lived beneath the earth. Something that pressed against a seal, a gateway that had been weakening for 2 centuries. Grace wrote about her first meeting with Nathaniel Blackwood, how she'd gone to him with weapons ready to die fighting, ready to avenge ancestors she'd been taught were victims. How he'd disarmed her without violence, shown her the gateway chamber, let her feel the wrongness radiating from those cracks in the ancient seal. How she'd made the choice, willing, conscious, desperate to restore the covenant her family had abandoned. For 3 years, she donated regularly. Small amounts carefully measured, monitored by Nathaniel's healer. The ancient vampire had grown stronger. The seal had stabilized. And I'd killed her for it. The page blurred. I realized I was crying hot tears cutting through 40 years of cultivated stoicism. A soldier didn't cry. A soldier did his duty. A soldier followed orders. A soldier had murdered his wife because he was too proud to ask questions. I wiped my face roughly, forced my eyes back to the journal. The last entry was dated the day she died. David won't listen. I've tried talking to him, but the syndicate has his mind. They've had it since 1975, since Vietnam, since he came home broken and looking for a new war to make sense of the old one. Tonight I'm meeting him at the warehouse. Nathaniel will be with me. David will see us together, see that I'm not enthralled, not scared, not a victim. Maybe visual proof will break through where words failed. If it doesn't, if he attacks anyway, Nathaniel has promised not to kill him, to protect him even from himself. I don't know if I can watch David try to kill someone who's been kinder to me than my own family, but I have to try. Because if David succeeds, if he kills Nathaniel, the gateway fails. And what comes through will devour Seattle within a week. I'm terrified, not of Nathaniel, of my husband. God forgive me, but I'm terrified of the man I married. The journal slipped from my hands. I pulled the Jeep over forehead against the steering wheel, shoulders heaving with sobs I'd kept locked down for 6 months. The cancer clawed at my lungs. The morphine made everything swim, and Grace's words echoed in my skull like artillery fire. Terrified of the man I married. I'd become the monster. The sky was lightening toward dawn when I finally pulled myself together. Drove the last 10 miles to the Blackwood estate with Grace's ghost-riding shotgun, whispering truths I should have heard while she was alive. The mansion loomed at the end of a long gravel drive, Gothic revival architecture, all spires and dark stone, the kind of place that screamed vampire even if you didn't know better. Iron gates stood open, not inviting so much as daring. I stopped the Jeep 50 yards out, killed the engine, took 3 deep breaths, checked my sidearm, chambered around, then holstered it. Whatever happened next, I wasn't shooting first. Not this time. Not ever again. I stepped out of the Jeep. The grounds were immaculate manicured lawns, ancient oaks, flower beds that shouldn't have been blooming in November but somehow were. Money and time. Nathaniel Blackwood had both in abundance. 3 figures materialized from the shadows near the entrance. Vampires. I recognized them from syndicate intelligence photos, Nathaniel's inner circle, his guards. The big one was Marcus Stone. The lean one, Vincent Cross. The quiet one in back, Kieran Ash. Marcus spoke first, his voice like gravel, grinding. David Morrison, you have nerve coming here. I raised my hand slowly, unarmed, here to talk. Vincent laughed sharp and bitter. Talk? You murdered Grace Morrison. You tried to kill our king, and now you want to talk. I deserve worse than talking. But my daughter's inside. I need to know she's safe. Kieran moved forward faster than anything human, stopping 3 feet from me. I could see his eyes, ancient, predatory, calculating. Safe from you mean? The accusation landed like a physical blow. Yeah, safe from me. A fourth voice cut through the tension, deeper, resonant, carrying weight that made the air feel heavier. Let him pass. Nathaniel Blackwood stepped from the mansion's entrance, and I understood immediately why they called him king. He moved like violence held in check. 6.5 feet of controlled power, dark hair, loose past his shoulders, eyes that had seen centuries and remembered every moment. Grace's blood had been on those lips 6 months ago. I dreamed about it nightly, waking in cold sweats, reaching for weapons that wouldn't change the past. Now I just stood there, an old soldier, facing down something he'd been trained to kill, knowing he probably couldn't even if he tried. Nathaniel descended the steps with liquid grace. Your daughter came to us, seeking sanctuary, David Morrison. She's under my protection now. From me. He tilted his head slightly. Should she not be? I had no answer that didn't sound like justification. So I said nothing. Nathaniel studied me the way a general studies terrain before a battle, looking for weaknesses, angles, probable outcomes. Whatever he saw made him nod slightly. Come inside, we have much to discuss. The others protested immediately. Marcus stepped forward, blocking my path. Your Majesty, this man killed Grace. He's a threat. Grace asked me to protect him. Nathaniel's voice carried no room for argument, even from himself. Honor her wish. Marcus reluctantly moved aside. Vincent kept his hand near a weapon I couldn't see. Kieran simply watched, silent, probably faster than the other 2 combined. I followed Nathaniel through doors that should have been locked into an entrance hall that belonged in a museum. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, portraits on the walls, some recent, most ancient, all showing the same ageless face at different periods in history. Nathaniel in Civil War uniform. Nathaniel in Victorian formal wear. Nathaniel in what looked like Revolutionary War garb. How old are you? 846 years. Give or take a decade. The number should have been impossible. Was impossible. But I'd seen him take 3 rounds of blessed silver at the warehouse and keep moving. I'd watched him heal wounds that would have killed any human in minutes. Impossible was relative. We walked deeper into the mansion, my boots loud on the polished floors. Nathaniel's footsteps somehow silent despite his size. He led me to a great hall lined with books, thousands of them, floor to ceiling. A fireplace large enough to roast a pig. Furniture that probably cost more than my house. And Lily, my daughter, sat curled in an oversized leather chair, drowning in a sweater too big for her, clutching a pink backpack to her chest like a shield. When she saw me, her eyes went wide. Not relief, fear. That hurt worse than the cancer. "Daddy, hey little bear!" My voice cracked on the nickname. I knelt slowly, hands visible, making myself small and unthreatening. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. Just wanted to make sure you're okay." She studied me the way she'd learned to study the world after her mother died. Cautious, analytical, looking for danger. "You're not mad, baby, no. I'm terrified, actually. Terrified she'd learned to fear her own father. Terrified I'd lose her the way I'd lost Grace. Terrified I'd die in 3 months with nothing but regrets between us. I'm sorry for scaring you, for everything." Lily's grip on the backpack loosened slightly. "Mr. Blackwood says you were confused, that you didn't mean to hurt Mommy." I glanced up at Nathaniel, who stood near the fireplace watching this scene with an expression I couldn't read. He'd been kinder to my daughter in 1 night than I'd been in 6 months. I was very confused. I thought I was helping, but I was wrong. Lily bit her lip. "The relic is glowing, Daddy. Mommy's book says that means I'm the new keeper." "The new what?" Nathaniel answered, his voice gentle. "The covenant keeper, the human who maintains the bond between guardians and the gateway we protect." Grace held that role. Now the relic, the artifact in your daughter's backpack, recognizes Lily as the inheritor. She's 5 years old. I'm aware. Nathaniel's tone hardened slightly. "Which is why we need to discuss alternatives before events force our hand." "What events?" An explosion shook the mansion's foundation. Chandeliers swayed. Books tumbled from shelves. Lily shrieked and I lunged for her on instinct, pulling her close as dust rained from the ceiling. Nathaniel moved to the window in a blur. Spoke one word flat and resigned. "Hayes." I joined him. Lily still clutched to my chest. Through the glass I saw what I'd feared: syndicate vehicles pouring through the gates. At least 30, maybe 40. UV floodlights mounted on every roof, bright enough to turn night into hostile noon. Hunters pouring out in tactical formation, blessed silver weapons raised, moving like they'd rehearsed this assault 100 times. Because they had. Operation Nightfall. Hayes had just moved up the timeline. I pulled out my phone, hit Hayes' number. She answered on the first ring, smug satisfaction bleeding through the speaker. "Morrison, stand aside. This is happening with or without you. Rebecca. Lily's in here. Then get her out. You have 2 minutes before we commence assault." The line went dead. Nathaniel turned from the window, and for the first time since I'd arrived, I saw something human in his expression. Weariness. The kind that comes from fighting the same battle too many times. "Your people are here to kill me. They're not my people. Not anymore." "Then whose are they?" I looked at Lily, still shaking in my arms. Then at Nathaniel, who'd protected her when I'd failed. Then at the window where men I'd trained were preparing to destroy something they didn't understand. 40 years of training said to fight with the syndicate, to stand with humanity, to protect the weak from predators. But Grace's letter burned in my pocket, and my daughter looked at me with eyes that begged me not to be the monster she feared. Sometimes good soldiers followed bad orders. Sometimes they died for lies they'd believed too long. And sometimes, rarely painfully, they chose truth over tribe. I set Lily down gently, looked at Nathaniel. "Tell me what you need me to do." The ancient vampire's eyebrows rose slightly. "You'd fight your own people for us, not for you." I chambered around in my sidearm, checked the magazine. "For the truth, whatever that costs. It may cost your life, already bought and paid for. Cancer, remember, I've got 3 months. Rather spend them being right than wrong." Nathaniel studied me for a long moment, then nodded once sharp and military. "Marcus, Vincent, Gabriel, Kieran, we have an ally. Defensive positions. The Vampire King's voice carried through the mansion like a command through stone. No lethal force unless absolutely necessary. These are frightened humans, not enemies. The guards materialized from shadows, moving with coordinated precision that spoke to centuries of practice. Marcus took the east wing, Vincent the west. Gabriel, younger looking, probably the healer, set up a medical station in the Great Hall. Kieran simply vanished scouting, probably faster than I could track. Nathaniel gestured toward a weapons cabinet. Silver rounds won't kill us, but they hurt like hell and slow us down. UV lights will confine us to shadows. What's your assessment? I moved to the window soldier's eye, evaluating the assault formation. 50 hostiles, 3 firing positions, floodlights covering all approaches. They've got UV grenades, saw them loading in. Blessed silver ordnance, probably hollow point for maximum tissue damage. Hayes is smart. She's planned for vampire physiology. Can they breach the mansion eventually? You've got wards or something that'll slow them, but nothing stops 50 determined hunters with modern equipment. So we're under siege. You're under siege. I'm about to commit treason. Nathaniel's expression shifted, something that might have been respect. Grace chose well. I didn't deserve that. But maybe in the time I had left, I could earn it. Outside, Hayes' voice boomed through a megaphone. Blackwood, release Morrison and his daughter. You have 2 minutes to comply. Nathaniel looked at me. Your call. I checked my weapon one more time. Thought about Grace, about Lily, about 40 years of fighting the wrong war, about 3 months left to die for something that mattered. When I spoke, my voice was steady. Tell your people to fall back to defensible positions. I'll handle the first wave. You'll what? I smiled grim, probably insane, definitely dying. I trained half those hunters out there. I know their tactics, their weaknesses, how they think, and they won't shoot me. Not immediately. Nathaniel's ancient eyes narrowed. You're using yourself as a shield. I'm using myself as a bridge. There's a difference. The explosion that followed shook dust from rafters. Hayes was done waiting. I moved toward the door. Nathaniel caught my arm, his grip iron strong but somehow gentle. Why betray everything you believed for us, not for you? I pulled free, checked the chamber one more time. For my daughter, so she doesn't grow up fearing her father was a monster. What if you are one? Then I've got 3 months to become something else. I stepped into the entry hall. Smoke was already seeping under the door. The assault was beginning. Lily called after me. Daddy, don't go, but Nathaniel held her back, whispering something I couldn't hear. The front doors burst inward on a wave of UV light and blessed fury. I stood in the center of the entrance hall, weapon drawn, but pointed at the floor as 50 syndicate hunters poured through smoke and chaos. Hayes led the charge, UV rifle raised, tactical vest loaded with enough silver to kill a dozen vampires. She stopped when she saw me. The hunters behind her stopped too, confused weapons tracking, but not firing. David, step aside. I held my ground. No, you're protecting them. Hayes' voice was disbelief wrapped in contempt. After what they did to Grace, they didn't do anything to Grace. The truth settled in my chest like armor. I killed my wife, and I've spent 6 months killing innocents because I couldn't face that fact. You're insane. Dying and insane. Probably. But I'm also right. I pulled Grace's letter from my pocket, held it up. She left me this. Explained everything. The covenant, the gateway, what they're really protecting. Hayes didn't lower her weapon. Vampires manipulate, they lie. Grace didn't lie, I did. To myself for 40 years. I gestured behind me toward where Nathaniel stood in shadow. Lily protected behind him. You want to kill him? You go through me first. The hunters shifted, uncertain. Some lowered weapons slightly. These were good men mostly. They'd followed orders, believed what they'd been taught, but they'd also served with me long enough to know I didn't bluff. Hayes made her decision. All units live rounds. Fire on Morrison if he resists. Nobody moved. That's an order. A grizzled hunter near the back. Tom Rodriguez, 61, served in Desert Storm, lowered his rifle completely. Ma'am, I'm not shooting Dave Morrison. Others followed. One by one, weapons lowering. Not surrender, refusal. Hayes' face went crimson. This is mutiny. This is good soldiers knowing a bad order. I kept my weapon down. Rebecca, I'm dying. 3 months. The cancer's already in my brain, my bones. I've got nothing to lose and everything to make right. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stand down. We're going to talk. And if you still want to kill Blackwood after hearing the truth, you can do it over my corpse. A voice from outside Mike Chen on the radio net. All units cease fire. Morrison has tactical command. Stand down and await further orders. Hayes spun toward the door. Chen, you're relieved. The hell I am. Mike's voice was steel wrapped in gravel. I'm invoking Code Sierra. Commander Morrison is authorized for independent action during existential threats. You don't like it, court-martial both of us. Code Sierra, emergency protocol established after Vietnam, when we'd learned that sometimes headquarters was wrong and field commanders needed autonomy to make calls that saved lives. I'd written the damn thing myself in 1970. Never thought I'd be using it against my own people. The mansion fell silent except for the hum of UV lights and the ragged breathing of 50 armed humans facing something they didn't understand. Hayes stared at me, calculating odds, political consequences, career implications. Finally lowered her weapon. 1 inch. You have 10 minutes, Morrison. Then I'm resuming assault with or without authorization. That's all I need. I holstered my sidearm, turned toward Nathaniel, who still stood in shadow at the hall's edge. Show them what you're really protecting. The ancient vampire hesitated. If I take them to the gateway chamber, I'm exposing our greatest vulnerability. They need to see it. The truth won't work without proof. Nathaniel studied the assembled hunters. Most had lowered weapons now, watching this exchange with the confusion of soldiers whose enemy had just become an ally. Finally, the Vampire King nodded. Follow me, all of you, but weapons stay holstered. The first man who draws on my people dies screaming. Understand? Hayes bristled. You threaten, not a threat. Nathaniel's voice could have frozen magma. A promise. You're guests in my home now. Act accordingly. He moved toward a door at the hall's back, one I hadn't noticed before. Hidden, warded. As he approached, symbols flared to life along the frame. Old magic, older than America, maybe older than human civilization. The door opened on stone stairs descending into darkness. Nathaniel looked back at me. Last chance to reconsider David Morrison. What's below changes everything. That's what I'm counting on. I followed him down into the earth beneath Seattle, into chambers that predated the city by millennia, toward a truth that would either save my daughter or doom us all. Behind me, 50 hunters descended into the dark. And somewhere even deeper, something ancient and hungry felt us coming. The stairs descended for what felt like miles, though my soldiers' count put it closer to 300 feet. Stone walls pressed in from both sides, carved with symbols that hurt to look at, directly geometric patterns that seemed to shift when caught in peripheral vision. The UV lights the hunters carried made the carvings writhe like living things. Lily walked between Nathaniel and me, her small hand gripping mine with a strength that belied her 5 years. She wasn't scared. That worried me more than if she'd been screaming. Hayes kept close to my 6-weapon holstered, but hand never far from it. Around us, 50 hunters descended in tactical silence, their training overriding their confusion. Good soldiers followed orders even when those orders made no sense. I'd built this unit on that principle. Now I was tearing it apart. The air grew colder as we descended, damper. Something that tasted like copper and ozone crawled down my throat with each breath. The cancer in my lungs protested, sending spikes of agony through my chest that the morphine barely dulled. I coughed, wet, rattling flecks of blood on my hand when I pulled it away. Lily looked up at me, worried. Daddy, I'm okay, little bear. Nathaniel glanced back. No, you're not. The vampire was right. I wasn't okay. I was dying faster than the doctors had predicted. The descent was accelerating my decline, not the physical exertion, but something else. Something in the air down here pressing against my failing body like a weight trying to crush me. We emerged into a chamber that stole my breath despite the pain. Vast didn't cover it. The space stretched into darkness beyond the reach of our lights, a cavern that had been carved or grown or willed into existence by something with patience measured in geological epochs. The ceiling disappeared into shadow. The walls were lined with more of those painful symbols, thousands of them, forming patterns and narratives that I couldn't begin to decode. But the floor was what mattered. A circle dominated the chamber's center, maybe 50 feet across, carved into bedrock, that predated Seattle by millennia. Symbols lined its perimeter, glowing faintly with blue-white light that pulsed like a heartbeat. At the circle's exact center, a depression, and within that depression, cracks. Dark cracks. Bleeding shadow. The hunters spread out automatically, securing the perimeter weapons, tracking potential threats that didn't exist. Hayes moved beside me, and for once, her professional mask slipped. What the hell is that? Nathaniel walked to the circle's edge, stopped precisely at the symbol line. This is what I've guarded for 800 years, what the Morrison family swore to protect 2,000 years ago, what your syndicate has spent 40 years trying to destroy without understanding. It's a seal. My voice came out hollow, echoing strangely in the vast space, containing something, not something. Nathaniel's ancient eyes reflected the blue glow. Somethings, plural, an entire dimension of entities that exist only to consume life, to feed on consciousness, warmth, complexity, order. They are entropy given form and hunger. Void spawn. The word came from Grace's journals, from passages I'd skimmed and dismissed as metaphor. They're real as I am, more real in some ways. Nathaniel gestured toward the cracks. That seal was perfect once, absolute, but it requires maintenance. Power fed into it regularly by a covenant keeper, a human who bonds with the guardian vampires, who channels life force through that bond to reinforce the magic. And Grace was, your wife volunteered 3 years ago. Nathaniel's voice carried grief that 8 centuries hadn't dulled. She discovered the truth about her family's history, came to me ready to kill or die, found something worth living for instead. For 3 years, she kept this seal strong, until I murdered her. The chamber absorbed my words, gave nothing back. 50 hunters stood frozen, processing impossible information, trying to reconcile decades of training with evidence their eyes couldn't deny. Hayes recovered first. She always did. So you're saying what exactly? That we've been fighting the wrong enemy, that vampires are heroes and we're villains. I'm saying you've been fighting symptoms while ignoring the disease. Nathaniel moved closer to the seal, careful not to cross the symbol line. Without a covenant keeper, I've been maintaining this seal with my own power alone. It's not sustainable. I'm burning out, and when I fail, Seattle dies first. Then the West Coast, then the continent. The void doesn't stop consuming until nothing remains. Tom Rodriguez spoke up, his voice tight. How long? Nathaniel's pause was answer enough. Even without seeing his face, I knew. Days, maybe a week, 72 hours, the vampire said finally. After that, the cracks widened beyond my ability to contain. Void spawn leaked through in numbers I can't fight alone. Hayes' tactical mind was already working. Then we evacuate Seattle, get civilians out of the blast radius. There is no blast radius. Nathaniel turned, and the blue glow caught his face, made him look more ancient than ever. The void spreads like infection, like cancer. His eyes flicked to me briefly, apologetic. It consumes everything it touches, and what it consumes becomes more void. Exponential growth. Seattle falls in days, North America in weeks, the world in months. Silence. The kind that follows when soldiers realize the war they thought they were fighting was just a skirmish, and the real battle was something they couldn't shoot. Mike Chen's voice crackled over the radio net. Dave, you've seen this. Yeah, Mike, I'm seeing it. Is it real? Please tell me this is some kind of trick. I knelt, ran my hand close to one of the cracks. Not touching, just feeling. Cold radiated from the opening. Not temperature cold, existence cold. The absence of warmth in a way that made my bones ache. It's real. Then we're screwed. Not yet. I stood, joints protesting, lungs burning. Nathaniel, what do you need? Another covenant keeper? The vampire's expression said what his words didn't need to. Yes, and there are none. Your daughter carries the bloodline, but she's 5 years old. The ritual would break her mind. Kill her, probably. Lily's hand tightened in mine. I don't want to die, Daddy. You're not going to, baby. I looked at Nathaniel. There has to be another way. Some alternative, some loophole. There is. The voice came from the chamber's far edge, old and creaking, belonging to someone who'd forgotten what youth sounded like, or perhaps never known. Every weapon in the chamber tracked toward the sound. A figure emerged from shadow, elderly, white-bearded, bent with age, that was somehow both authentic and performance. His eyes, though, His eyes were wrong, too gold, too aware, too much like Nathaniel's. The Vampire King actually stumbled backward, Master Elias. The old man vampire, clearly despite the aged appearance, smiled. "Hello, young one. It's been a while. 3 centuries." Nathaniel's voice carried shock I'd never heard before. "We thought you'd transcended, passed beyond. I've been waiting." Elias Thorne moved with surprising speed for someone who looked 90, crossing the chamber in smooth strides. Waiting for this moment, this choice, this man. He stopped in front of me, studied my face with clinical interest. "David Morrison, killer, soldier, father, dying man. You've made quite a mess of things. I don't need a vampire to tell me that. No, you need a vampire to offer you redemption." Elias gestured toward the seal. "The covenant traditionally requires a Morrison woman, female bloodline specific magical resonance. But there's an older version, a contingency, male Morrison serving as temporary keeper." "Temporary meaning what?" "Meaning it will kill you." Elias's bluntness was almost refreshing. "The male bloodline can sustain the bond, but not indefinitely. You'd have perhaps a year, maybe less given your cancer. I have 3 months anyway, so I'd get 9 extra." "No." Elias's eyes narrowed. "You'd get 3. The covenant would accelerate your decline, burn you from the inside as you channel power into the seal. But those 3 months would be enough. Long enough for your daughter to grow to understand, to choose whether to inherit the burden when she's ready." Lily pulled at my hand. "Daddy, no, I don't want you to die faster. Everyone dies, little bear." I knelt so I could meet her eyes. "I'm dying anyway. This way I die, meaning something, making sure you get to grow up safe, get to be a kid, get to choose your own path when you're old enough. But I need you, I know. The grief in my chest had nothing to do with cancer, but you need a future more, and I'm going to give you one." Hayes stepped forward. "Morrison, you can't seriously be considering this. Binding yourself to vampires, giving them power. I'm giving the world a chance." I stood, looked at the assembled hunters. "All of you saw what's down here. That seal fails, and we all die. Our families, everyone. So yeah, I'm considering it. I'm doing it." The chamber erupted in protest, voices overlapping, arguing, some hunters backing away like I'd grown fangs myself. Only Mike Chen stayed silent, watching me with the expression of someone who'd already said his goodbyes. Nathaniel moved beside me. "David, you understand what you're offering. The pain will be extraordinary. You'll feel every void spawn that tests the seal, every crack that wants to spread, every moment of pressure from the other side. It's agony without respite. I was in Vietnam. I understand pain. This is different." The ancient vampire's voice dropped low, meant only for me. "This is spiritual agony, existential. Your soul pressed against something that wants to devour it. Grace called it beautiful and terrible in equal measure. Then I'll learn to appreciate the beauty." Elias coughed, unnecessary for a vampire, just habit from a mortal life, centuries dead. "If we're doing this, we need to begin. The seal won't hold much longer." "Wait." Hayes moved between me and Elias. "Commander Morrison, I'm ordering you to stand down. This is clearly a trap, Rebecca." I met her eyes, saw the fear beneath her command mask. "I know you're scared. Hell, I'm terrified. But look around, that seal's breaking. Those cracks are spreading. We don't have time for skepticism. You're dying, compromised. I'm clear-headed for the first time in 40 years. I pulled Grace's letter from my pocket one more time, held it up. My wife died protecting this. I'm going to honor that. You can help me or you can shoot me. But either way, I'm doing this." Hayes stared at the letter, at me, at the cracked seal, bleeding shadow. Her hand moved toward her sidearm. Mike Chen's voice, quiet but firm. "Rebecca, don't." She froze. Looked at Mike, who'd drawn his own weapon, not pointed at her, not pointed at anyone, just present. "This is mutiny," she whispered. "This is survival." Mike didn't lower the gun. "Dave's right. That thing's real. And if he's willing to die to seal it, I'm willing to follow his lead." One by one, the older hunter veterans who'd served with me in the early days drew weapons. Not threatening, supporting. A wall between Hayes and me that said, "You want to stop him, you go through all of us." Hayes looked around at her crumbling command, finally holstered her weapon. You better be right about this, Morrison. I'm not right about anything, but I'm trying to be. Elias gestured toward the seal. Then let's begin before sentiment overtakes sense. The ritual required preparation. Elias directed Nathaniel's guards to clear a space within the symbol circle right at the edge of those bleeding cracks. Close enough that I could feel the cold radiating up through bedrock. Close enough that my skin crawled with proximity to something fundamentally wrong. Lily refused to leave my side. Nathaniel finally picked her up, held her at a safe distance, murmuring reassurances I couldn't hear. She watched me with eyes too old for fail, too aware that her father was about to do something that couldn't be undone. Elias chalked symbols around where I'd stand or kneel or collapse depending on how bad it got. The old vampire worked with steady hands despite his apparent age, muttering in languages I didn't recognize. Latin maybe, or older. Something that predated Rome. Nathaniel approached as Elias worked his expression grave. Last chance to reconsider. You keep saying that, like I have options. You do. We find another Morrison. Distant cousin. Someone expendable. Nobody's expendable. I checked my sidearm one last time even though I wouldn't need it. Habit. My daughter gets to choose her path. That's non-negotiable. Even if your path is 3 months of agony, especially then. Because she'll remember her father chose suffering over forcing a child to carry adult burdens. That's the man I want to be when I die. Nathaniel studied me with ancient eyes. Grace loved you, you know, especially after you killed Hera. She understood that soldiers sometimes destroy what they're trying to protect. Did she forgive me? She forgave you before you ever asked. The vampire's voice carried centuries of grief. I haven't. But I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. Elias finished the symbol, stepped back. It's ready. David Morrison, are you prepared? No. But let's do it anyway. I moved to the circle's center, knelt on stone that had been old when Christ was young. The cracks were right there, inches away. Bleeding darkness that moved with malevolent intelligence. Something on the other side felt me. Recognized prey. Hunger pressed against my mind like hands around my throat. Elias began chanting. Nathaniel cut his palm with a silver knife, let blood pool in his hand. Ancient blood, power made liquid. He knelt across from me, extended his bleeding hand. By blood the bond, by will the burden, by sacrifice the seal. I cut my own palm. The morphine made it distant, manageable. Gripped Nathaniel's hand. Our blood mixed and the world screamed. Pain exploded through every nerve. Not physical, beyond physical. The gateway's weight crashed into me like artillery fire, like napalm, like every wound I'd ever taken in Vietnam condensed into a single moment of absolute agony. I felt the seal's cracks as fissures in my own body, felt void spawn pressing against barriers, testing for weakness, eager to feed, felt 800 years of Nathaniel's memories flooding through the bond battles. Deaths, the desperate loneliness of immortality, spent guarding a door that nobody thanked you for keeping closed. Felt Grace, her donations, her kindness, her certainty that this mattered more than fear or prejudice or the syndicate's blind crusade. Felt the moment she died, not from my perspective, but from Nathaniel's. Watching helplessly as I drove a stake through the woman he'd called friend. Unable to stop me, unable to save her, unable to hate me because she'd made him promise. I screamed, couldn't help it. The agony transcended anything morphine could touch. My body convulsed, blood running from nose and ears, every cell in my body rejecting this bond, while simultaneously accepting it. Somewhere distant, Lily cried out, "Daddy." The symbols around me flared blue-white, bright enough to illuminate the entire chamber. Power channeled through me, not mine, not Nathaniel's, but something older. The covenant itself, magic that predated human civilization, reawakening after years dormant. The seal responded. Cracks began to close. Slowly, grudgingly, like wounds reluctantly healing. The darkness bleeding through recoiled, screaming soundlessly as its avenue into reality narrowed. And I felt every second of it. The void entities knew me now. Recognized the covenant keeper. They pressed harder, testing my resolve, searching for weakness. Whispers filled my mind, not words but concepts. Hunger, inevitability, the promise that everything decays, everything falls, everything ends in entropic dissolution. They weren't wrong, but I had 3 months to prove they could be patient. The ritual completed with a pulse of light that knocked every hunter off their feet. I collapsed forward, caught by Nathaniel before my face hit stone. The ancient vampire held me with surprising gentleness, his expression unreadable. "Welcome to the Covenant, David Morrison. I hope you survive it." My vision swam, blood in my eyes, my mouth, my lungs. The cancer roared back worse than before, accelerated by the power coursing through me. But underneath the pain, I felt something else. Connection. To Nathaniel, to the seal. To every guardian vampire who'd ever held this watch. I wasn't alone anymore. The bond carried me, sustained me, even as it consumed me. I whispered through bloody lips. How long? Elias knelt beside me, ancient and sorrowful. 3 months, perhaps slightly less. The cancer and covenant will race each other to your end. Good, that's long enough. Lily broke free from whoever was holding her, threw herself at me. I caught her despite everything held her while she sobbed against my chest. Around us, hunters stared in stunned silence. Hayes looked like she'd witnessed a religion being born. Maybe she had. Mike Chen approached slowly, offered me a hand up. I took it, stood on shaking legs. The seal glowed bright and stable behind me. Cracks sealed. Darkness contained. Victory of a sort. The kind that cost everything. Mike's voice was rough. How do you feel? Like I'm being crucified from the inside. But functional. That's our Dave, always understating. I managed something that might have been a laugh, hurt more than it should have. Nathaniel steadied me, and I realized I could feel him now. His presence in my mind. Not thoughts exactly, just awareness. Knowing where he was, what he felt, the weight of his own burden shared through our bond. It was deeply uncomfortable and strangely comforting in equal measure. Hayes finally found her voice. What now? Now I looked at the assembled hunters at the sealed gateway, at my daughter still clinging to my leg. Now we rebuild. Morrison Syndicate becomes something new. Not hunters, guardians, working with vampires instead of against them. You're asking us to abandon 40 years of doctrine. I'm asking you to acknowledge that doctrine was wrong, that we were lied to, that the real war isn't human versus vampire, it's existence versus void. Choose which side you want to be on. The hunters exchanged glances. Some looked convinced, others skeptical. A few backed away, already deciding this was too much, too strange, too far from what they'd signed up for. Tom Rodriguez spoke for the moderates. We'll need proof, documentation, evidence beyond one ritual. You'll have it. Nathaniel gestured toward the chamber's exits. My archives contain 2,000 years of Covenant history, letters from Morrison ancestors, journals from previous keepers. The truth is there for anyone willing to read it. Hayes crossed her arms. And if we refuse, if some of us still believe vampires are the threat, then you're free to leave. Nathaniel's voice carried no threat, just weariness. I won't stop you, won't hunt you. I've spent 8 centuries avoiding unnecessary violence. But understand, the seal is stable for now because David Morrison gave his life to make it so. Disrespect that sacrifice at your own moral peril. The hunters began filing out subdued processing. Some cast backward glances at me, concern, confusion. A few with something that might have been respect. Mike stayed close, running interference, making sure nobody got ideas about attacking while I was vulnerable. Hayes paused at the stairs, looked back. Morrison, don't die before your 3 months are up. That's an order. I'll do my best, ma'am. She almost smiled. Almost. Then disappeared into shadow. When most of the hunters had left, Nathaniel finally released me. I sagged against the nearest wall, every muscle trembling. The bond thrummed in my chest like a second heartbeat. Irregular, fading, fighting the cancer that was already adapting to the new power source, already learning to feed on what should have saved me. Elias' approach was something in a vial. Drink this, it will ease the transition. What is it, blood? Mixed with herbs that won't save you but might make dying slower. I drank without hesitation, tasted copper and earth and something indefinably ancient. It settled in my stomach, spreading warmth that pushed back the cold radiating from my connection to the seal. Lily tugged at my jacket. Daddy, can we go home now? Home? What did that even mean anymore? The house where Grace died, where I'd spent 6 months drinking myself to death, where every room screamed her absence. Not there. I looked at Nathaniel. Can we stay here? Just until I figure out what normal looks like now, the ancient vampire's expression softened. You're Covenant Keeper. This is your home as much as mine. There are rooms enough for an army if needed. Just need one, for me and Lily. 2. Nathaniel's tone brooked no argument. She needs her own space. A child's room safe and normal, and you need somewhere to die without her watching. The bluntness hurt more than it should have. You really know how to make a guy feel welcome. I've had 846 years to learn honesty. False comfort helps no one. Fair enough, I picked up. Lily grunted at the effort. Everything hurt now. The Covenant had sharpened every pain, made me hyper-aware of my body's failures. Show us these rooms. We climbed those 300 stairs in silence. Lily fell asleep against my shoulder, halfway up, exhausted by terror and wonder in equal measure. I envied her. Sleep sounded impossible. The bond hummed constantly, feeding me information I didn't want. Void spawn, testing the seal, probing for weakness, waiting with patience that measured in eons. The mansion's guest wing was, well, it was better than anything I'd ever lived in. Lily's room was already prepared somehow, decorated in soft colors, with a bed that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. Nathaniel's doing clearly. He'd been ready for us, planned for this. I tucked Lily in, kissed her forehead. She murmured something about monsters and heroes that made my chest ache. Then she was out, deep sleep, the kind only children achieve. My room was next door, simpler, more austere. A soldier's room, really. Bed, desk, window overlooking dark grounds. Nathaniel had even left morphine on the nightstand, stronger than what I'd been taking. Industrial grade, the kind they gave to people in their final days. Because these were my final days. Just drawn out, made useful. I sat on the bed, tried to think of what came next. Planning, tactics, making sure Lily was provided for, writing letters for her future birthday's graduation wedding, if she ever had one. All the moments I'd miss. A knock at the door. Nathaniel, probably. Come in. The vampire entered, carried a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. Thought you might need this. I'm on enough morphine to kill a horse. Then a little whiskey won't hurt. He handed me a glass. To grace, we drank. The whiskey burn cut through the morphine haze, brought clarity I wasn't sure I wanted. Why are you being kind to me? I killed your friend. Nathaniel settled into a chair, centuries of grace in that simple motion. Because grace asked me to protect you both. Because you're trying to be better. Because we're bound now, and hating you would be like hating myself. The bond between us pulsed. I could feel what he didn't say, grief so deep it had become geological loneliness that made decades feel like seconds. The crushing weight of immortality spent watching everyone you cared about crumble to dust. How do you stand it, watching people die? Over and over, you learn. Nathaniel's voice was quiet. You accept that everything ends except you, that your purpose is larger than your pain, that being guardian means accepting you'll lose everyone you protect. Sounds like hell. It is, but it's important hell, the kind that matters. We sat in silence, drinking, 2 soldiers who'd fought the same war from opposite sides, now united by something neither of us wanted, but both accepted. The whiskey bottle emptied, the night deepened, and somewhere beneath us, the seal held. For now. My phone buzzed. Text from Mike Chen Hayes is splitting the unit, half staying, half leaving with her, civil wars brewing. Thought you should know. I showed Nathaniel the message. He read it without expression. How very human, unable to agree even when existence itself is at stake. Some of them still think you're the threat. Some of them are right to be cautious. Trust is earned, not demanded. His ancient eyes met mine. I've earned your trust by accident and necessity. Others will require proof. Then we give them proof. I stood swayed slightly, gripped the desk until the room stopped spinning. Tomorrow. Today. Whenever I wake up. We start documenting everything. Opening the archives. Making the Covenant public knowledge instead of secret history. That could be dangerous. Humans fear what they don't understand. Humans also adapt. We're survivors. Give us truth and time, and most will choose correctly. Most. The vampire's skepticism was earned by centuries. What about the rest we deal with? Same as any war. I finished my whiskey, felt at war with the morphine and cancer and Covenant power all burning through my system. But preferably without killing them. I've done enough killing. Nathaniel stood moved toward the door. David, the covenant will get worse before it stabilizes. The first weeks are agony as your body adjusts. Grace nearly died from the initial bonding. I'm already dying. What's a little more suffering? He paused at the threshold. Grace said something similar. Try not to follow her example entirely. I'll do my best. When he left, I collapsed on the bed fully clothed, closed my eyes. Felt the covenant thrumming through me, felt void spawn, testing the seal, felt Nathaniel's presence like a ghost in my mind. Felt Grace. Not truly, not her voice or his consciousness, just memory sharpened by the bond showing me what she'd experienced. The wonder of connecting to something ancient and important. The terror of knowing it would consume her eventually. The certainty that it mattered anyway. She'd been braver than me, always had been. I pulled out my phone, started recording a video message for Lily, for when she was older, when she'd understand why her father chose this. Hey, little bear. My voice was hoarse, exhausted. If you're watching this, I'm probably gone, and you're wondering why I did something so stupid. I paused, gathering thoughts that scattered like smoke. The morphine wasn't helping. I did it because you deserved a choice. Because forcing a 5-year-old to save the world isn't right, isn't fair, isn't something a father should allow. So I bought you time. 13 years if we're lucky. Enough to grow up, enough to decide if you want this burden or if you'll find someone else to carry it. The camera caught me wiping my eyes. When had I started crying your mom was a hero? Not the kind with capes and fanfare. The quiet kind. The kind that sacrifices in shadow so others can live in light. I spent 6 months hating her for that. For being braver than me. For seeing truth I was too blind to recognize. Don't be like me, baby. Be like her. See clearly. Choose consciously. And if you decide the covenant isn't for you, that's okay. I'll be proud either way. I love you. Always. I ended the recording, saved it, created a folder labeled For Lily, and started another video, and another. Birthday messages stretching into a future I wouldn't see. Advice for problems I wouldn't be there to solve. Apologies for all the ways I'd fail her in the time I had left. By the time I finished, dawn was breaking. The covenant had settled into a low throb instead of constant agony. Manageable. Barely. My phone buzzed again. This time, Hayes meeting at HQ. 800 hours. Bring Blackwood. We need terms. So it begins. The negotiation. The fragile peace between hunters and vampires that would either save the world or shatter it. I texted back, we'll be there. Then collapsed into sleep that came with nightmares of cracks spreading and darkness bleeding through, and something vast and hungry whispering my name from the other side of existence. When I woke, Lily was curled beside me, somehow having migrated from her room to mine in the night. She looked peaceful, safe. I'd given her 13 years of safety, worth every moment of the agony to come. The Morrison Syndicate headquarters felt different in daylight. Less like a war bunker, more like what it was, a converted warehouse filled with scared humans trying to understand a threat they couldn't shoot. Half the parking lot was empty. Hayes' schism had already begun. The loyalists who'd left with her, the pragmatists who'd stayed with Mike. Civil war, as Nathaniel had predicted. We arrived in Nathaniel's car, an incongruously normal SUV that somehow made the ancient vampire seem more alien, not less. Modern technology in the hands of something that predated electricity. Lily sat in back, clutching the pink backpack that contained the relic, her talisman, and burden both. Mike met us at the entrance. Dave. His expression was grim. Fair warning, it's ugly in there. How ugly. Half the room wants Blackwood dead. The other half wants you court-martialed. His eyes flicked to Lily. Maybe she should stay outside. She stays with me. I'd lost too much already. Wasn't losing her to fear and protocol. Your call. We entered the briefing room to hostile silence. 20 hunters remained, the ones who'd seen the gateway, who'd watched the ritual, who hadn't immediately fled to Hayes' splinter faction. They sat in rigid attention, weapons visible but not drawn, a compromise between cooperation and paranoia. Nathaniel moved with measured calm, taking a position at the room's front like he'd briefed tactical teams 1,000 times. Probably had. Civil War, both world wars, Vietnam. The ancient vampire had seen more military operations than anyone alive. Tom Rodriguez spoke first. Blackwood. The ritual we witnessed, was it real or some kind of mass hypnosis as real as the cancer-killing David Morrison. Nathaniel's voice carried no defensiveness. The void is real. The gateway is real. The covenant is the only thing standing between humanity and extinction. Prove it. Nathaniel gestured to me. David, how do you feel like I'm being burned alive from the inside while simultaneously drowning in something that wants to erase me from existence? I held up my hand, showed the faint blue tracery of veins visible beneath skin. The covenant marks, physical manifestation of the bond. Grace had them too. I just never knew what they meant. The hunters leaned forward, studying the patterns with tactical assessment they'd apply to enemy tattoos. How long do you have? Tom's voice was quieter now. 3 months, maybe less. The cancer's accelerating. The covenant is accelerating it. Race to see which kills me first. And when you die, then Lily chooses. Take the covenant herself when she's 18, or we find another Morrison to carry it. I looked at Nathaniel. There must be distant cousins, family branches we don't know about. There are. The vampire pulled out a tablet, more incongruous modern tech, and displayed a family tree that stretched back millennia. The Morrison bloodline has spread across North America, dozens of potential keepers. But convincing them will require proof documentation and willingness to believe in something they've been taught to deny. So we provide proof. Mike stepped forward. Open the archives. Show us everything. Letters, journals, evidence that can't be denied. Nathaniel inclined his head. You'll have access to everything. 2,000 years of covenant history. The truth is there for anyone willing to read it. A younger hunter near the back. Sarah Chen, Mike's granddaughter, 23, and sharp as broken glass, raised her hand. What about the other gateways? You said Saddle was one seal. How many exist? 7. Nathaniel's expression darkened. Seattle, yes, but also beneath Paris. Tokyo, Cairo, deep in the Amazon basin. Antarctica, Tibet. 7 seals, 7 guardian courts, 7 covenant keeper bloodlines. And the others, 2 have fallen. Paris in 1347, you know it as the Black Death. Tokyo in 1945, you know it as nuclear fire. Both were void breaches contained at catastrophic cost. His ancient eyes swept the room. 5 seals remain, all weakening. Seattle is simply the next to fail. Jesus Christ, Tom's voice was hollow. We're fighting a global war we didn't know existed. You're learning about a global war your ancestors fought and then forgot. Nathaniel pulled up maps showing the gateway locations of the guardian courts assigned to each. The covenant system worked for 8,000 years. It failed in 1847 when the Morrison family betrayed us here in Seattle. Other betrayals followed Paris, Tokyo, each collapsed rippling outward, making the remaining seals work harder. Why didn't you tell us? Sarah's question carried accusation. Why let humans think you were monsters? Because whenever we told the truth, humans killed us for it. Nathaniel's voice was tired, ancient. We tried diplomacy in Paris. They burned us. We tried openness in Tokyo. They hunted us. After 8 centuries of watching humans destroy what they don't understand, I learned that secrecy was survival. So you're cowards. Hayes' voice cut through the room like a blade. She stood in the doorway, 10 hunters behind her. Armed, dangerous. The room exploded into motion. Weapons drawn on both sides. Nathaniel didn't move, just regarded Hayes with the patience of mountains watching weather. I stepped between them, hands raised. Everyone stand down. Now. Morrison. Hayes' lip curled. You're bound to them now, a thrall. Why should we listen? Because I'm the only thing keeping that seal closed. I gestured toward the floor, toward the gateway far beneath. You want to test whether I'm compromised? Pull me out. See what happens when the covenant breaks. She hesitated. You won't do it, because you saw what's down there. You felt it. That cold that isn't temperature. That hunger that doesn't end. The void doesn't care about your ideology, Rebecca. It just wants to eat. Hayes lowered her weapon 1 inch. We need guarantees. That Blackwood won't expand his territory. Won't create more vampires. I won't feed on humans without consent. Nathaniel's voice cut through her demands. Won't turn anyone without their explicit informed choice. Won't use thrall or compulsion or any of the tools your propaganda attributes to us. The covenant system depends on willing participants. Force breaks it, and we're supposed to trust you. You're supposed to verify. Nathaniel gestured to the room. Assign observers. Monitor us. Document everything. Build your case with evidence instead of fear. The standoff held, Hayes calculating, her loyalists tense. The room balanced on a knife edge between peace and bloodshed. Then Lily walked forward, small, fragile, 5 years old and carrying more weight than any child should. She stopped in front of Hayes, looked up with eyes too old for her face. My daddy's dying to save you. Mommy died to save everyone. What are you doing? The question hung in silence. Hayes stared down at this child, at the innocence and accusation braided together, at the truth no tactical assessment could deny. Finally, she holstered her weapon. Morrison, you have 3 months to prove this covenant works. After that, if the seal holds, we'll talk permanent terms. Fair enough. But if you fail, if that thing breaks through, we're killing every vampire in Seattle, starting with Blackwood. Nathaniel nodded once sharp. Acceptable terms. Hayes gestured to her team. We're leaving, setting up independent oversight. You want proof, we'll document everything. And if you're lying, you'll have evidence to bury us. I met her eyes. I wouldn't have it any other way. She left. The tension drained from the room like water through cracks. Mike exhaled roughly. That went better than expected. She didn't shoot anyone. My bar's pretty low these days. Tom approached, extended a hand to Nathaniel. Okay, show us these archives. We'll need something concrete to report to the Oversight Committee. Of course. Nathaniel shook 2 soldiers, acknowledging a truce. My estate, tonight. Bring whoever needs convincing. They filed out, leaving Mike, Lily, Nathaniel, and me alone in the briefing room. Mike sagged against the wall. Dave, you look like death. I feel worse. The Covenant had been pulling at me all morning, demanding attention, warning me that something was testing the seal with more intelligence than usual. Nathaniel felt it too. His eyes went distant. Something's changed. The Void Spawn are coordinating. What does that mean? It means they're learning, adapting, recognizing the new Covenant keeper and probing for weakness. Nathaniel's ancient face showed rare concern. We need to reinforce the seal. Tonight, before they find a way through. I'm barely standing now. Then we'll carry you. The vampire's grip on my shoulder was iron strong. You chose this burden, David Morrison. Now we make sure you survive long enough to see it through. Fair enough, I looked at Lily, who watched with frightened eyes. Little Bear, you're staying with Mike tonight. Uncle Mike will keep you safe. The hell I am. Her small voice carried steel I recognized from Grace. I'm staying with you, Daddy. Lily. No arguing, she crossed her arms. Mommy's journal says the keeper and the key have to stay close. The relic knows when I'm not there. It gets upset. Nathaniel and I exchanged glances. The bond let me feel his surprise. That's not how the Covenant worked before. Maybe it's adapting too. I knelt, ignoring the agony in my joints. Okay, little bear, but you stay behind the symbol line. You don't cross into the gateway chamber. Deal, deal. Mike shook his head. You Morrisons are all crazy. We prefer dedicated. I stood wobbled, caught myself on Nathaniel's arm. Let's go reinforce the seal before the universe ends. Just another Tuesday. The drive back to the estate felt longer than it should have. The Covenant pulled at me constantly now, feeding me information I didn't want. Void Spawn gathering on the other side, pressing harder, testing the seal with coordinated strikes that spoke to intelligence directing them. Something on the other side was awake, and it knew my name. Nathaniel drove in grim silence. Lily dozed in back, exhausted by terror and wonder. And I stared out the window at Seattle, passing by ordinary people, living ordinary lives, completely unaware that reality's foundations were cracking beneath them. We'd save them or die trying. Those were the only options left. The estate's underground chamber felt different now. The seal I'd reinforced through ritual glowed steady and strong, but the cracks weren't fully healed, just closed, temporarily sutured wounds that would tear open again without constant maintenance. Nathaniel led me to the circle's edge, placed my hands on the symbol line. Now channel power through the bond. Push it into the seal. Imagine it filling the cracks like mortar. I closed my eyes, felt for the connection humming in my chest. Found it. Pushed. The agony that followed made the ritual seem gentle by comparison. Power flooded through me, not mine, drawn from somewhere beyond mortality, flowing through the Covenant like current through wire. And I was the wire, burning, conducting, breaking. The seal brightened, cracks closed further. The Void Spawn on the other side screamed soundlessly, frustrated, and something else responded. A presence vast, ancient, so far beyond human comprehension that perceiving it felt like staring into the sun. It noticed me noticing it, and it was not pleased. A voice that wasn't voice, that was concept, made communication. Keeper, male, temporary, insufficient. I tried to pull back. The presence held me, examined me the way a scientist examines bacteria through a microscope, with clinical interest in absolute disregard for the bacteria's opinions. The bridge is weak, the seal is weak, the guardian dies, the keeper dies, the key remains. Lily, it was talking about Lily. I pushed back with everything I had. You don't touch her, the presence laughed, laughter that unraveled sanity at the edges. Touch, we are patience, we are inevitable. The child will choose eventually. They all choose. Then it was gone. Release me. I collapsed backward, caught by Nathaniel blood pouring from my nose and ears. The vampire's voice was distant, alarmed. David, what happened? Something spoke to me. Through the seal, something big. Nathaniel's expression went grim. The architect. The void has hierarchy, lesser spawn, greater spawn, and at the top, intelligences that predate this universe. You just met one. What did it want to remind us we're temporary? To remind us that eventually we fail? Nathaniel helped me sit. The architect has been trying to breach for 10,000 years. It can wait another 10,000 more. Then we make it wait. I wiped blood from my face, tasted copper. How long do I have today? Hours, maybe days. The bond needs time to recover between reinforcements. Good, because I need to write more letters for Lily and update my will and figure out how to apologize to Grace properly. David, Nathaniel's ancient eyes held something like respect. You're dying well. That's rarer than you'd think. I'm dying badly, but I'm trying to die useful. There's a difference. Grace would be proud. Grace would tell me I'm an idiot for waiting 6 months to figure out what she knew immediately. But yeah, hopefully she's proud anyway. We left the chamber, climbed those endless stairs, and somewhere behind us, beneath miles of stone and magic, the void waited with patience that measured in eons. 3 months, maybe less. Better make them matter. The first week after the covenant binding, I lost 15 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. The cancer and the gateway fought for territory in my body, and I was the battlefield. Morphine stopped working entirely by day 9. Nathaniel's healer, Gabriel Gentle, despite his predator's eyes, mixed something stronger. Vampire blood and opium and herbs that probably shouldn't exist. It dulled the edge without destroying clarity. A soldier's cocktail. Enough to function, not enough to escape. Lily watched me deteriorate with eyes that understood too much. She'd moved her sleeping bag into my room by the second week, refused to leave, despite Nathaniel's gentle suggestions about giving me space to suffer in private. She said the relic hummed louder when I was in pain, like it was trying to help and didn't know how. I believed her. The bond showed me things Grace's journals had only hinted at. The covenant wasn't just magic, it was alive in some fundamental way. Aware, choosing its keepers as much as being chosen. And it didn't like watching me die. Neither did I, but we were both stuck with it. By week 3, I couldn't walk unaided. Nathaniel assigned Marcus, the big guardian with the soft voice, to help me to the gateway chamber for daily reinforcements. The vampire carried me down those stairs like I weighed nothing, which wasn't far from truth anymore. My body was cannibalizing itself, burning muscle and fat and anything else it could find to fuel the covenant's demands. The seal stayed strong. That mattered more than pride. Hayes visited twice, brought documentation requests, evidence chains, legal frameworks for a human-vampire alliance that shouldn't need to exist but did. She still didn't trust Nathaniel, probably never would. But she'd seen the gateway, felt the void. That changed people faster than any argument. Mike Chen came daily, brought reports from the fragmented syndicate, updates on Hayes' splinter faction, news of hunters who'd chosen exile over adaptation. We played chess badly, his arthritis against my failing coordination, 2 old soldiers watching endgames neither of us would see concluded. He never asked if I regretted the choice. He knew better. Lily drew pictures, hundreds of them, crayon drawings of our family meet, her Grace's ghost, Nathaniel's elongated shadow that she somehow rendered as protective rather than threatening. She taped them to my walls until the room looked like a kindergarten art show. Gabriel said it helped, that children processed death through creation, that she was preparing herself even if she didn't understand why. I hated that she needed to prepare. Hated that 5 years old meant learning grief as a primary skill. But the alternative was worse, losing her father without warning, without time to say what needed saying. So I recorded more videos. Birthday messages through age 30, advice for problems I'd never help solve, apologies for abandonment that wasn't choice but felt like it anyway. My voice grew weaker with each recording. By message 20, I could barely whisper. By message 30, I just looked at the camera and hoped my expression said what words couldn't. I love you. I'm sorry. You're going to be okay. Month 2 arrived with the subtlety of artillery fire. The cancer reached my brain, sending hallucinations that mixed with covenant visions until I couldn't distinguish memory from prophecy, from fever dream. Grace visited often, or I imagined she did. We had conversations about choices and consequences, and whether dying mattered if you died for something true. She said yes. I wasn't sure I believed her, but I appreciated the company. The void spawn grew bolder, coordinated attacks on the seal, testing for weakness, learning from each failure. The architect spoke to me twice more vast pronouncements about inevitability and entropy that would have been terrifying if I wasn't too exhausted for terror. Mostly I told it to shut up and let me concentrate. Disrespecting ancient evils felt like the only power I had left. Nathaniel spent more time in my room as I weakened, not hovering, just present. 2 soldiers on watch, one dying, one unable to die. We didn't talk much, didn't need to. The bond carried what words couldn't, shared burden, mutual respect. The understanding that some wars were fought in inches in silence. He asked once if I was afraid, of death, of what came after, of the void that waited on reality's edge. I told him I'd been afraid since Vietnam. Since the first firefight, the first body, the first moment I understood that courage was just terror with orders. Death was simpler. Death was just stopping. The void was the terrifying part, the idea that stopping wasn't enough, that something could erase you so completely that even the memory of your existence dissolved. He said the void couldn't erase what we'd built. The alliance, the truth, the covenant renewed and recorded and made undeniable. Those things persisted beyond any individual life. I wanted to believe him. Some days I almost did. By week 7, I couldn't leave the bed. Gabriel moved me to the gateway chamber, set up a medical station where I could reach the seal without walking. Lily came with me, nested in blankets beside my cot, the relic clutched to her chest like a stuffed animal. She sang songs Grace used to sing, off-key, perfect. The seal glowed constant, now fed by my diminishing life. Nathaniel said it had never been stronger. 800 years of guardianship and a dying man in 3 months had accomplished what centuries of careful maintenance couldn't. I asked if that meant I'd done my job, if Lily was safe, if 13 years was enough time for her to grow, to choose to find another path if she wanted. He said yes, then added that yes didn't feel like victory when victory cost this much. No, but it felt like enough. Week 8 brought visitors I didn't want but needed. Sarah Chen, Mike's granddaughter, representing the new generation of hunters. Tom Rodriguez representing the old guard. Hayes representing skepticism that was slowly becoming something else. They came to witness, to document, to see what covenant keeping actually meant. They saw me, skeletal, barely conscious, hooked to IVs that didn't help but made Gabriel feel useful. And they saw the seal blazing stable, holding back an infinite hunger with nothing but a dying man's will. Hayes left without speaking. I'd like to think something in her hardened certainty cracked that day, but maybe that's just what I wanted to believe. Sarah stayed longer. Asked questions about Vietnam, about Grace, about choices that seemed impossible until you stood in the crucible and realized impossible was just another word for necessary. Smart kid. She'd lead the syndicate someday, probably do it better than I had. Less certainty, more questions. That was growth. Tom brought whiskey. We couldn't drink it. My stomach couldn't handle anything but glucose drips, but it sat on the table beside my cot. Promise and memory in amber glass. He told stories about operations we'd run together, sanitized versions where we'd been heroes instead of murderers, where the people we'd killed deserved it instead of being victims of our ignorance. I didn't correct him. Let him have his version. The truth was heavier than anyone needed to carry. Mike's visits grew longer as mine grew shorter. He knew what was coming. We both did. He started bringing photos our unit in Vietnam, younger men with no idea what the next 50 years held. Grace at our wedding, radiant and doomed. Lily as a baby before she understood that fathers could be monsters. We didn't cry. Soldiers didn't cry. But we sat in silence that said what tears couldn't, and that was close enough. Nathaniel moved his own cot into the chamber by week 9. The bond had tightened as I weakened, pulled him closer by necessity or magic or just the gravity of grief. He'd lost Grace. Now he was losing me. 800 years of watching humans die and it still hurt him. I found that strangely comforting. He told me stories to pass the long nights when sleep was impossible and consciousness was agony. Stories about the Covenant's beginning, about the first keepers who'd stood at this exact spot 10,000 years ago when the seals were fresh and the void was just theory. About the gradual erosion of knowledge, the transformation from willing partnership to human slavery, to rebellion and betrayal. How every cycle repeated alliance trust, fear, war forgetting, and maybe this time with documentation and witnesses and children like Lily who'd grown up knowing truth, maybe this time the cycle could break. I told him about Vietnam, about killing kids who were soldiers, about soldiers who were kids, about the day I understood that evil and duty could occupy the same action and you'd never untangle them cleanly. About coming home broken and finding the syndicate, finding purpose in clear lines and easy enemies. About how Grace had been the only person who had ever looked at me and seen something worth saving despite the blood on my hands. He said she'd been right. That saving was always possible, even at the edge of death, even after decades of choosing wrong. I said I hoped he was right, but hope wasn't knowledge and I'd spent too long confusing the two. By week 10, I was beyond pain. The Covenant had burned through every nerve ending, left me numb and drifting. Gabriel said it was mercy, the body's final kindness before shutdown. I asked how long, days, maybe less. Good. I had letters to finish, messages to record, a daughter to say goodbye to properly. Lily never left the chamber those final days. Nathaniel tried to convince her this wasn't something a child should witness, watching a parent dissolve by inches. But she refused with Grace's stubbornness, said the relic wouldn't let her leave, said I needed her close. She was right. The bond recognized her presence, stabilized slightly when she was near. The Covenant accepting its future keeper, even if that future was 13 years away. We talked when I could, about her mother, about the life I'd wanted for us, about choices and burdens and the difference between sacrifice and suicide. I told her I was choosing life right up to the moment it ended, that every second with her mattered more than the pain. She asked if dying hurt. I said yes. She asked if it was worth it. I said, ask me when the world doesn't end. She said, okay. Then curled against my side, careful of the IVs, and fell asleep like children do, instant, complete trusting. I envied that trust. Hoped I'd earned it. Nathaniel found me at Grace's grave on day 73. I'd managed to walk here alone through pure spite, knowing it would probably kill me, but needing to do this without help. The morphine had stopped working 3 days ago. Gabriel's vampire blood cocktail barely touched the edge anymore. I was running on fumes and stubbornness. The grave looked the same. Grace Morrison, beloved wife, guardian of light. But something felt different, wrong, or right in a way I'd missed before. The stone I'd moved 10 weeks ago, the one that had hidden her letter, was displaced again. Fresh earth beneath it, like someone had recently been digging. I knelt with effort that left me gasping, pushed the marker aside. Another box waited in the shallow depression, smaller than the first, sealed with wax and symbols that glowed faintly in the pre-dawn light. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, a vial of dark liquid. Blood, clearly. Grace's blood preserved by magic I didn't understand. And a letter. And a how. Her handwriting, addressed to David for the end. I read through tears that blurred the words. My love, if you're reading this, you took the Covenant. You gave yourself to save Lily, to buy her time to grow, to choose to be more than a vessel for magic she didn't ask for. You're dying now, faster than you hoped probably. The cancer and Covenant don't play well together. This vial is my final gift. Emergency measure, last resort. It contains my blood mixed with Covenant magic from my 3 years as keeper. If the gateway ever fails catastrophically, if the seal shatters before you're done, use it. Drink it. Channel everything. You'll have one surge of power, enough to permanently seal the Seattle gateway. At the cost of your life, obviously. But since you're dying anyway, at least it'll be fast instead of this slow dissolution. Don't use it unless you must. Live as long as you can. Watch Lily grow. See the alliance take root. Die peacefully if possible. But if peace isn't possible, if the void breaks through early, if everything fails, burn bright, my love. One final time. Make it count. I forgive you. I love you. I'm proud of what you've become, Grace. I clutched the vial like a drowning man clutching driftwood. Grace had planned for this. Known I'd take the covenant. Known I'd come here desperate and dying. Left me one last tool for when everything else failed. The vial hummed with power. Old magic. Dangerous magic. Suicide magic, really. But Grace was right, since I was dying anyway. At least this way the death would matter on a cosmic scale instead of just personal. I tucked it into my jacket pocket, stood on shaking legs, turned to find Nathaniel standing 10 feet away, expression unreadable. How long have you been there? Long enough. His ancient eyes tracked the vial's outline through my jacket. That's Grace's emergency measure. You knew about it. She told me before she died. Asked me to place it here when you needed it most. The vampire moved closer. I thought it was madness, giving a dying man even more power to kill himself with. Madness maybe, but useful madness. David. His voice carried 8 centuries of weariness. You don't have to be the hero in every story. Not trying to be a hero, just trying to be enough. There's a difference. Grace said the same thing right before she died. Then maybe she was onto something. I started walking back toward the estate, each step an exercise in controlled agony. The vial in my pocket pulsed in time with my heartbeat. Waiting, Nathaniel matched my pace. If you use that, the gateway seals permanently. No more covenant needed. No more keepers. But also no more you. Fair trade, is it? What about Lily? Lily gets to grow up in a world that doesn't end. That's all I want. She might prefer a world with her father in it. Can't have both. I stumbled. Nathaniel caught me, held me upright while the world spun, and the cancer screamed, and the covenant pulled like hooks through my soul. So I'm choosing the option where she lives. Everything else is negotiable. You're a stubborn bastard, David Morrison. So I've been told, let's get back. I need to rest before the next reinforcement. We walked in silence through pre-dawn Seattle, 2 soldiers who'd fought the same war from opposite sides, now united in the recognition that some wars weren't about winning, just about holding the line long enough for the next generation to take over. The vial burned in my pocket. Promise and threat. Grace's final gift. I hoped I wouldn't need it. But hope wasn't preparation, and I'd learned that lesson too many times already. The seal broke on day 82. Not slowly, not with warning. One moment stable, the next moment shattering like glass under artillery fire. I felt it through the bond, a sudden absence where strength had been a void, rushing in to fill vacuum entropy, accelerating from theory to reality in seconds. Alarms shrieked through the mansion. Nathaniel materialized beside my cot in the gateway chamber, moving with speed that blurred reality. The seal, I know. I was already reaching for the covenant bond, pushing power through channels that barely existed anymore. My body was failing. The cancer had reached critical mass. And now the void was breaking through ahead of schedule. The chamber shook. Wreckage spread across the ancient seal-bleeding darkness that moved with malevolent purpose. Void spawn began to manifest shadows with teeth cold that burned hunger given form. Small ones first, then larger, then something that hurt to perceive directly. The architect was coming through. Nathaniel's guards flooded the chamber, Marcus Vincent, Gabriel Kieran, 4 ancient vampires against infinite hunger. They fought with coordinated precision born from centuries of practice, destroying void spawn as fast as they manifested. But more came, and more. The seal was breaking faster than they could contain. Lily screamed. Someone, Gabriel, probably grabbed her, pulling her behind the symbol line where she'd be safer. She fought to reach me, calling my name with terror that broke what was left of my heart. I couldn't answer. The covenant demanded everything. I channeled power through the bond, tried to seal the cracks, tried to force the void back. But I was too weak. dying too fast. The cancer and covenant had hollowed me to nothing, and nothing couldn't hold back infinity. The architect manifested at the seal's center. Not fully. Just enough to make its presence undeniable. A shadow larger than physics allowed eyes that were holes in reality, a voice that spoke in frequencies that unmade sanity. Keeper, male, dying, insufficient. The bridge falls, the seal breaks. We enter. Get the hell out of my world. I pushed harder. Blood poured from my eyes, my nose, my ears. The bond screamed, my body convulsed, and the seal held. Barely. The cracks stopped spreading, didn't heal, just stopped. Not enough. The architect knew it. I knew it. Nathaniel knew it. This was a temporary victory measured in seconds, and I didn't have seconds left. Grace's vial burned in my jacket pocket. Emergency measure, last resort, permanent seal at the cost of my life. I was dying anyway. What were minutes versus hours when infinity waited on the other side? I pulled out the vial. Nathaniel saw. His expression shifted to horror. David, no, tell Lily I love her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her to choose her own path when the time comes. You'll kill yourself already dead. This way it matters. I uncapped the vial. Grace's blood glowed with power that made the room's light dim by comparison. 3 years of covenant magic distilled and preserved, waiting for this exact moment. I could feel what it would do, flood my dying body with enough power to seal the gateway permanently. No more covenant needed, no more keepers, just one final sacrifice from a dying man who'd spent too long making the wrong choices. Lily was screaming, Nathaniel was shouting. The void spawn were pressing closer, and the architect watched with inhuman patience, curious whether I'd actually do it. I looked at my daughter one last time, 5 years old, brave beyond measure. The best thing I'd ever had a hand in creating. Then I drank. The power hit like napalm. Grace's blood, her magic, her 3 years of willing sacrifice, of it flooded through me in a wave that erased pain and cancer and mortality in one cleansing burn. I felt alive for the first time in months. Felt strong, felt capable, felt my body starting to disintegrate. Mortal flesh tried to channel immortal power. Worth it. I placed my hands on the seal, pushed everything Grace's magic, the covenant, bond, my own fading life into the ancient symbols. The gateway blazed with light bright enough to blind, bright enough to burn, bright enough to make void spawn shriek and dissolve like mist in sunlight. The architect roared, not sound, concept. Rage that existence itself dared to resist entropy's inevitable conclusion. Too bad I was a stubborn bastard. And stubborn bastards died making statements. The seal reformed, cracked, sealed, not temporarily, permanently. I felt the magic lock into place, felt it recognized that no covenant keeper would ever be needed again. In Seattle, felt the gateway accept this final offering and close forever. The architect vanished back to its dimension. The void spawn dissolved. The chamber fell silent except for Lily's sobbing and Nathaniel's whispered prayer in a language older than English. I collapsed, not dramatically, just stopped having strength. My body had served its purpose and was done. The cancer could finally have its victory, nothing left to fight for, nothing left to fuel. Nathaniel caught me before I hit stone, held me with surprising gentleness. You saved us all, you stupid, brilliant fool. Seems fair. I coughed, blood that was mostly blood, now not much else left inside. How's Lily? Terrified. Brave, like her mother. Good, that's good. My vision was graying at the edges. The morphine and blood cocktail couldn't touch this. Nothing could. I was dying the way soldiers died fast once it started, with just enough time to understand what was happening, but not enough to be afraid. Lily's face appeared above me, tears streaming. Daddy, you promised you had 3 months. I did my best, little bear. Sometimes best doesn't last as long as we hope. You're not allowed to die. Everyone dies, baby. But I died making sure you don't have to carry this burden. That's enough. Her small hands gripped my face. I could barely feel them. Everything was distant now, muffled like swimming through deep water. Nathaniel's voice came from far away. David, brother, thank you. Don't thank me yet. Make sure Lily grows up right. Make sure the alliance holds. Make sure my death meant something. It meant everything. Good. That's good enough. The chamber was fading, or I was fading from the chamber. Hard to tell the difference. Mike Chen was there suddenly or had been there all along. And Tom Rodriguez. And Hayes, her professional mask, finally cracked, showing grief underneath. The whole damn syndicate had come to watch me die. Witnesses, documentation, proof that covenant keeping was real, was sacrifice, was worth honoring. Gabriel checked my pulse with vampire senses that knew death intimately. Minutes, maybe less. I used one of those minutes to look at Lily one more time, memorize her face. 5 years old, brave, alive, growing up in a world I'd helped save. The other minutes I spent with Grace. She was there at the end, maybe real, maybe hallucination, maybe both, sitting beside me like we were back in our kitchen 20 years ago before vampires and covenants and choices that destroyed everything. She said I'd done well, said she was proud, said Lily would be okay because I'd given her time and choice and freedom from burdens no child should carry. I said I was sorry for killing her, for taking 6 months to understand what she'd known immediately, for dying before I could make it right. She said I'd made it right, that the covenant renewed and the seal permanent and the alliance forged was writing enough for anyone. I said I loved her. She said she knew. Then she was gone, or I was gone. Hard to tell. Everything was distant now, just voices and light and the feeling of fading into something that might be void, or might be peace, or might be both. Nathaniel's voice was the last thing I heard. Rest now, David Morrison. The watch is ended. We'll take it from here. Good, that was all I needed. Someone else to carry the burden. Someone else to hold the line. I'd done my part. 3 months, 82 days. Close enough. I closed my eyes and stopped fighting. Epilogue, 10 years later. Lily Morrison walked through Seattle National Cemetery with the confidence of someone who'd grown up knowing exactly what she was meant to do. 16 years old, straight-backed, eyes that still carried that unsettling blue glow from the relics she'd bonded with at age 8, when the choice had been hers to make and she'd chosen to honor her parents' legacy. The Morrison-Blackwood Alliance had built her father a proper memorial. Not just a headstone, but a statue David Morrison, in his final moment, hands on the gateway seal light pouring from his eyes as dying to save a world that barely knew his name. Inscription beneath, he fought the wrong war for 40 years, then gave his life, fighting the right one. Every November 7th, the anniversary of his death, the Alliance held ceremonies. Hunters and vampires standing together, honoring the man who'd bridged the gap between them. It should have felt strange. 10 years ago, it would have been impossible. Now it was just normal. Lily placed flowers at the base of the statue lilies, naturally Grace's favorite, and sat on the bench someone had installed for vigils. Her phone buzzed. Message from Nathaniel Council meeting in 1 hour. The Tokyo situation has deteriorated, she typed back. On my way, just saying goodbye first. The Tokyo Gateway, one of the 5 remaining seals. It had been weakening for months despite the Keeper's efforts, and yesterday's reports suggested critical failure within weeks. The Tokyo Covenant Keeper, an elderly woman named Yuki Tanaka, was dying of natural causes with no clear successor identified. History repeating. The cycle Lily's father had tried to break. But this time was different. This time they had infrastructure. The Morrison-Blackwood Alliance had spent 10 years building networks training keepers from multiple families, creating redundancies, so no single death meant catastrophic failure. They had Sarah Chen leading operations with Mike's tactical brilliance and her own innovative strategies. They had Hayes running oversight, her skepticism transformed into quality control that kept everyone honest. They had Tom Rodriguez teaching new recruits that asking questions was stronger than blind certainty. And they had Lily, youngest Covenant Keeper in recorded history, bonded to the relic at 8 when she decided that honoring her parents meant choosing their path consciously. Trained by Nathaniel and the Guardians, educated by Gabriel in ancient lore, hardened by Vincent's strategic thinking, humanized by Kieran's quiet wisdom. She carried her father's determination and her mother's clarity. The best of both, tempered by choice rather than forced necessity. A shadow fell across the bench, Nathaniel moving with the silence that still startled despite 10 years of familiarity. The ancient vampire had aged somehow, not physically, but spiritually. David's death had marked him in ways 8 centuries hadn't managed. Time to go soon. Lily stood touched the statue one more time. Daddy, I'm going to Tokyo next week to help stabilize their gateway before Keeper Tanaka passes. Wish me luck. The statue didn't answer, but the wind picked up rustling leaves with timing that felt deliberate. Lily smiled, small private. Thanks. She turned to Nathaniel. The Tokyo situation, how bad, really bad enough that you're our best option? The vampire's expression was grim. Tanaka has days. Her family fractured years ago, no clear successor. The seal is cracking. Void spawn have already started manifesting in isolated incidents. The Japanese government is barely containing. So we're looking at Seattle version 2. Worse, Tokyo is larger, denser. If that gateway fails fully, we're talking millions dead before we can evacuate. Then we don't let it fail. Lily started walking toward the cemetery entrance where their car waited. What's the plan? You travel to Tokyo, assess the situation, work with Tanaka to identify potential keepers. If necessary, I take temporary covenant there while we find permanent solutions. Lily's voice was steady, like her father's had been at the end. I can hold 2 gateways for a while. It will kill you eventually, but eventually, as measured in years and years, is enough time to train proper successors. She glanced back at her father's statue one more time. He bought me 13 years with 3 months of suffering. I can buy Tokyo successors a few years with manageable burden sharing. You're 16. You should be worried about school and friends and normal teenage concerns. I'm a covenant keeper. Normal stopped being an option when I was 5. They reached the car. Nathaniel opened her door with old-fashioned courtesy that she'd stopped arguing about years ago. Before she got in, he gripped her shoulder, gentle but firm. David would be proud of you. David would tell me I'm an idiot for volunteering. Lily's smile was sad, but he'd understand. Someone has to hold the line. Just promise me you won't make his mistakes. Don't sacrifice yourself unnecessarily. Don't martyr yourself for people who might not appreciate it. Stay alive, Lily. The Alliance needs you. The world needs the Alliance more than it needs me. She got in the car. But I'll be careful. Promise. They drove through Seattle in comfortable silence, city lights reflecting off rain-slicked streets. The emergency council meeting would discuss Tokyo operations, resource allocation, diplomatic approaches to the Japanese government. Standard crisis management for an organization that had grown from 50 hunters to a global network in just 10 years. Her phone buzzed again. This time, Mike Chen's granddaughter, Sarah, now leading field operations, Lily. Intel suggests Tokyo's Void Spawn are coordinating. Architect-level intelligence confirmed. This isn't random failure, something's pushing. Lily's blood ran cold. The Architect, the entity that had nearly destroyed Seattle. If it had shifted attention to Tokyo, she showed Nathaniel the message. His ancient face hardened. If the Architect is actively targeting Tokyo, our timeline just collapsed. Days, not weeks. Then we leave tonight. Lily was already typing responses, coordinating logistics. Alert the team. Full deployment. I'll need Gabriel for healing support, Vincent for tacticals here and for reconnaissance. And me. Nathaniel's voice was quiet. You hold Seattle. If Tokyo falls and I don't come back, this gateway needs its guardian. No arguments. For a long moment, she thought he'd argue anyway. Then he nodded once sharp and military. As you say, Keeper. They pulled into the Alliance headquarters, the old Syndicate warehouse transformed and expanded into a legitimate organization. Hunters and vampires moved through corridors with practiced ease. The strangeness of their cooperation normalized by a decade of shared purpose. The council room was packed. Sarah had already started the briefing wall screens showing Tokyo gateway readings, void manifestation reports, Keeper Tanaka's declining health metrics. 50 faces turned as Lily entered, human and vampire, both young and old, unified by understanding that this room represented humanity's best hope against infinite hunger. Hayes stood at the front, older but no less sharp. Morrison, glad you're here. We have a situation. I heard. Lily moved to the head table, pulled up her own files. Tokyo Gateway critical. Architect level involvement. Keeper Tanaka dying. We deploy tonight, stabilize the seal, identify successors. Standard emergency protocol. Nothing about this is standard. Hayes gestured to satellite imagery showing dark spots over Tokyo void manifestations captured by equipment that shouldn't be able to photograph non-physical entities. The architect isn't just pushing, it's learning, adapting. Every gateway it tests, it gets smarter about exploiting weaknesses. Then we adapt faster. Lily looked around the room. My father died, sealing Seattle permanently. We can't do that in Tokyo. The ritual requires keeper sacrifice, and Tanaka is too weak. But we can stabilize long enough to train new keepers. Buy time, hold the line. For how long? Tom Rodriguez, gray-haired and nearing 80, asked the question everyone was thinking. As long as it takes, Lily met his eyes. We're fighting entropy. Entropy doesn't stop. Neither do we. The room erupted into discussion, logistics, timelines, resources. Lily let it wash over her, focused on the tactical board. Tokyo was 12 hours away by plane. They'd need diplomatic clearance, coordination with Japanese authorities, integration with local hunter groups who'd been fighting this war isolated for too long. It was messy, complicated, exactly the kind of operation her father had hated and her mother had excelled at. Good thing she'd inherited traits from both. The meeting ran 3 hours. By the end, they had a plan, Lily leading a 10-person team mix of Alliance veterans and Tokyo liaisons deploying within 18 hours. Gabriel's medical expertise, Vincent's tactical coordination, Kieran's reconnaissance, Sarah's operational command from Seattle headquarters, Hayes providing governmental liaison, Tom advising on Covenant protocols. Everyone had a role. Everyone understood the stakes. As the room cleared, Nathaniel pulled Lily aside. Private word, they stepped into a quiet quarter. The ancient vampire looked older than she'd ever seen him, burden showing through the immortal facade. If you die in Tokyo, I won't. If you die, the Seattle Gateway loses its keeper. The bond we share through your covenant will transfer to whoever I designate before I go. Lily's voice was gentler than her words. Nathaniel, I've planned for this. I'm not my father charging in on spite and stubbornness. I'm my mother, careful, prepared, covered from every angle. Grace died anyway. Grace died because my father couldn't see clearly. I see fine. The void is the enemy. Everything else is just logistics. Nathaniel studied her face, searching for David's recklessness or Grace's certainty, finding it instead something uniquely Lily, a blend of both tempered by choice and training, and 10 years of growing up in a world that made sense because her parents had died making it so. Finally, he nodded. Go. Save Tokyo. Come home alive. That's an order. Yes, sir. She almost smiled. Anything else? He pulled out something from his coat pocket, a small vial, dark liquid sealed with wax. Grace's final gift. The one your father used to seal Seattle. I had Gabriel create another. Just in case. Lily took it carefully. Emergency measure. Last resort. Permanent seal at the cost of my life. Only if you have no other options. And Lily having other options is always better than dying heroically. I know. She tucked it into her jacket, felt it hum with power that made her own covenant magic feel weak by comparison. But if Tokyo's choice is gateway failure or my death, the choice is obvious. To you, not to those who love you. Then they'll understand why I chose what I chose. Same as I understood Daddy's choice. She started to walk away. Nathaniel called after her, Lily. Your father's last words were about making sure you had a choice. Don't throw that choice away lightly. She looked back, smiled sad but certain. Daddy gave me 13 years to choose. I chose this. That's not throwing anything away. That's honoring everything he gave me. Then she was gone, heading to pack for a trip that might be one way to fight a war that never ended, to hold a line that stretched across continents and centuries. Nathaniel watched her go, whispered to the empty corridor. She's so much like you both, Grace. David, I hope that's enough. Somewhere in the world, 5 gateways held against infinite hunger. Somewhere, young keepers trained to carry burdens their ancestors had forgotten. Somewhere, the cycle was finally breaking, not because one man or woman sacrificed themselves, but because enough people chose to share the weight. David Morrison had died buying his daughter time to choose. Lily Morrison had chosen to make sure others had the same gift. That was legacy. That was covenant. That was the bridge between darkness and light, held by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The watch continued. The guardians remained vigilant. And somewhere in Seattle National Cemetery, a statue stood witness, silent, eternal. honoring the dying man who'd learned to fight the right war at the very end. His words carved in stone, better late than never.